So greetings everyone, my name is Castle J. Silvan, and for today's report, I will be discussing values issues in gender equality and same-sex marriage are the flow of our discussion. So now let's move on to the discussion. Gender equality does not mean women and men will be the same, but that their rights, duties, and opportunities will not depend on their gender. So gender equality means considering the diverse interests, needs, and priorities of women and men. So having gender equality between men and women is considered a human rights issue as well as an indicator for achieving a sustainable people-centered development. So kapag ang isang babae or isang lalaki ay hindi nakaka-receive ng same opportunities or rights, or kapag piniperceive sila according sa kanilang gender, dito ngayon nagkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag na gender inequality. So first, isa sa mga epekto ng gender inequality, gender norms to gender inequality, ay talaga nakaka-apekto sa pamilya dahil commonly, women ay nalilimitahan lang sa kanilang domestic chores like cleaning and cooking as well as taking care of the children. While sa mga lalaki naman, nalilimitahan sila sa perception na for them ang kanilang maintenance chores or labor dahil piniperceive sila as strong and bold. Or usually, piniperceive din sila as the financial provider ng pamilya. So according nga sa article ni Angeles about the Filipino male, doon nakikita talaga na ang men ang ine-expect talaga na maging provider and the one who will continue the family lineage. So men are always seen as strong in terms of their capability to do labor work that may be profitable for the family. So, nagkakaroon ng struggle ang boys and men rin dito, since the beliefs about what it means to be a man lead boys and men to behave in extremely limited ways that can harm them. For example, is yung pagkikip ng emotions sa kanilang sarili lang. Dito ngayon nagkakaroon ng negative masculinities na nai-instill sa mga kalalakihan sa loob ng pamilya at nagkakaroon ng cycle kung saan nagaganap ang injustices sa loob ng bahay. Next is the gender inequality in raising the children. So dito naman, gender inequality could take place in the simplest form. For example, is yung choosing toys for the kids or yung pag-assign ng mga gawaing bahay sa kanila. Merong cases naman na yung mga magulang mas binubview yung son nila as worth investing than their daughters, as they believe that daughters will just marry in the future and their sons will just become a provider for the family. Next is gender inequality in family planning. So there are studies related about the role of gender inequality sa family planning. So kinonduct to in 14 countries. So dito pinapakita na the lower the gender inequality in the country, the greater the chances of achieving universal coverage of family planning demand met with modern methods. So usually, men in patriarchal societies, sila talaga yung may say kung gagamit ba yung asawa nila ng contraceptive or not. So dito, nagre-resulta to para sa mga kababaihan sa pamilya na nalilimit lang sa pag-aalaga ng bahay at pag-aalaga rin ng kanilang mga anak. So, recommendations to solve these issues: practice sharing household chores and childcare equally. So, importante na both husband and the wife have equal parts in the house and child caring. So, as per United Nations report in 2015, pinapakita doon na mas maraming nasispend yung babae na oras unpaid daily work, which is yung household chores and childcare, kaysa sa lalaki. Meron ding studies in Brazil in 2012 kung saan nagpapakita doon na maaaring magkaroon ng mental illness kapag na-overload ka sa household chores. Kaya importante na parehas pag-usapan to ng mag-asawa since it's a shared responsibility in the house. Next is practice gender equality by educating the children about gender-sensitive education with the help of the community. So it's not only parents ang responsible for how their children perceive gender. It's also their peers, teachers, caretakers, or niyaya, and the media all influence how children, or sometimes, maski mismo yung parents nila, believe that they should behave depending on their assigned sex. So nonetheless, parents who are aware of the gender norms prevalent in their culture have a significant chance to challenge gender roles. So eliminate stereotypes and also educate their children. Next is educate women about family planning and establish accessible centers wherein they could get sexual and reproductive health care. So gender inequality is combated through family planning. So according nga sa pag-aaral noong 2014 by UNFPA, ang access to family planning services is a key component of reducing gender inequality and modifying gender stereotypes by boosting women's health, economic empowerment, and education. So let's move on to same-sex marriage. So same-sex marriage is not just a legal agreement between same-sex couples, but it would also provide them with the same legal rights to heterosexual married couples. First is in the effects of the family. In the family, the religious belief that same-sex marriage is a sin. So this follows the belief that it is stated in the Holy Scripture that man is only for a woman and woman is only for a man. Thus creates an opposition. So same-sex couples are being deprived of rights and benefits of creating or establishing a family. Next is same-sex marriage have a negative effects on the welfare of a child. So nandito yung stigma na kapag ang isang bata ay lumaki sa same-sex household, nagkakaroon ng negative effects ito sa kanya. For example, sexual identity confusion, depression, and other emotional difficulties. Additional din dito yung belief na mas nagiging abuse, violence, or crime, teen pregnancy, dropping out of school, suicide, and poverty. Next naman is yung same-sex marriage as undermining the institution of marriage. So according sa study ng UCLA Psychology, usually yung mga nag-oppose sa same-sex marriage ay takot dahil mas promiscuous ang gay, tingin nila. So, nagiging threat ito sa kanilang marriage. Baka daw kasi mag-cheat yung asawa nila since it's a temptation. So, lumalabas sa resulta ng studies na to na nagiging strategy ito ng mga taong tingin ay threat ang gay or ang same-sex marriage sa kanilang own marriage. So, for the recommendations, we have the first, implement, if none, laws and monitor moral or religious discrimination against LGBTQ plus people. So, even though there are existing laws enacted to protect LGBTQ against discrimination, the growing number of religious exemption laws leave many LGBTQ plus people with little recourse when they face discrimination. And then, next is create an advocacy campaign using different media and digital media platforms to raise awareness in fighting the stigma or negative effects of having a same-sex partners. So the American Psychological Association said in 2005 that not a single study has demonstrated children of lesbian or gay parents to be disadvantaged in any substantial way relevant to children of heterosexual parents. Kahit yung OLR research report ay ini-state din na for the last 20 years, sinasuggest na there are no observable developmental differences between children who are raised by heterosexual parents and those who are raised by lesbian and homosexual parents. Next naman is yung challenge the misconceptions about gays and lesbian through programs that addresses these beliefs about people who are part of LGBTQ+. So there are 4 common misconceptions listed in the context of exploring health and well-being across the lifespan. So first conception is about being LGBTQ is all about sex. Next is the LGBTQ are the same from their political views to their styles or even yung background ng kanilang life or kahit mismo yung income nila. The next naman is dinedefine ng mga tao ng LGBT or yung kanilang pag-embrace sa kanilang identity ay isang psychological problem or just a confused pace. Lastly naman is yung belief na actual or perceived discrimination has little effect on LGBTQ health. So, hindi naman daw, kapag inaasar ka, hindi naman to gaanong nakaka-apekto raw kuno sa mental health ng mga LGBTQ+. So, it's important na i-challenge natin itong misconceptions na to. So, here are the references as you can see to my discussion today. Both ay lahat po nandyan na, pati yung references from the effects and then the recommendations. Yung sa recommendations, yung iba dun ay nandun sa studies related. Our last 2 pages here is the related studies for local research. Here naman is the related studies for my international research. Thank you for listening.